Well, hello friends, this here's David Vos. Today's October the 8th, 2015. It's great to see everybody today. Well, today I had something in mind to talk about. It might be a little bit interesting for a lot of you because you know how, well, of course, just about everything I say is I always start off by talking about how, there's so much lies going on. We're all living in a matrix. I think most of my subscribers have gotten to the point where they, certainly those who follow my videos know and agree with me that we're living in a time where just about everything around you is a lie. But here's an interesting lie that you've been told over and over and over and over again. And I just think it's an important one to point out because I don't think most of you know it's a lie. How's that? There are lots of lies that we kind of know, right? I think there are people that watch the television and they actually believe all that stuff that they're being told. They see a commercial about pharmaceutical drugs. And, if the commercial said, these drugs are going to make you better. They're going to make you feel good. Your body needs these drugs. This is some kind of nutrition. This is some kind of, good thing. It's going to cure cancer. It's going to cure this and that. Isn't it interesting? They never say that because they can't say that because they don't cure anything. None of these drugs cures anything. They never once say at the beginning of the commercial, anywhere in the commercial or anywhere at the end of the commercial, this drug cures cancer. This drug cures heart disease. This drug cures diabetes. None of it. They've never cured anything. What do they say in those commercials? With smiley faces, and flowers and children running and butterflies and dogs, running around catching a frisbee. They say this drug can give you pain in the adenoids and swelling of the brain and hemorrhage in the bowels and bleeding and feel sick and you're vomiting, call a doctor. It sounds pretty strange, but you see, as long as these high priests, there are high priests, they are channeled to what is real because they wear white gowns. They're doctors, they're the priests, and they are an authority over us, and so we have to believe them. Even if they tell you right to your face that this drug is going to kill you, we believe, because they said, take the drug with happy smiles, we believe it and we do it. So this is the kind of lies we're under, and some of us have finally figured out that it's not true. It's a lie. Few of us. And I've said in some of my videos before, there's probably I'd say 99% of you actually do believe these commercials. There's very few people that their eyes are opened and they realize it's not just not true all the way. It's completely a lie. It is a sham. It's a racket. And it is evil. But few of you have gotten that far to distrust the doctors that much, even though they're giving people drugs that kill them, right? Even though you go to the store and you say, well, I'm going to get some baby formula, and this is important, this is for my baby, but I trust society, so whatever's in that can, I'm mixed up in water and everything, and whatever's in there, I'm going to trust it, that's for my baby. You see, they don't encourage you to breastfeed. They tell you that milk from a cow is evil, right? You don't put that in your bottle. Put soda in there, right? Orange juice or something, but, some kind of a tang, but you don't want to put any milk in there. But what's in that can? Infomil or whatever it is. Look on it. You know how when you look at ingredients, the first ingredient is what's in the can, the most of what's in there. That has the highest percentage of what's in the can is the first ingredient. And it goes down the line. Well, the first ingredient is corn syrup. Did you know that corn syrup is about 10 times as addictive as regular sugar? And it's very bad for you and bad for your kidneys. And this is what you're feeding to babies. Corn syrup. There's like everything else that's in there after the corn syrup is chemicals. And this is what we mix up in the water and give to our babies. Alright, enough said. We're completely, our minds are gone. You know, danger, Will Rogers, right? It's over. This mission is over if you can't at least get that. But one of the lies that's been going around, this is what I want to get to, is that there's a thing called overpopulation. And this is a big one, because if you believe that, then you're going to believe that we've got to do something about it, number one. And of course, how are we going to do it? What are we going to do about overpopulation? Pollution, stuff like that. Well, certainly we wouldn't want to shut down these factories. Stop driving cars, right? Or we'll just keep doing that. There's no problem with that. That's not only illegal, but we got to do that. Here's what we could do. On certain days, you can't burn wood in your fire. Isn't that amazing? Up there, I remember I used to live up in Idaho, and they had certain days where you weren't allowed to burn wood. I don't know how people kept warm. That's a lot of people, that's all they had to keep warm. But on certain red light days, you couldn't build a fire. It's illegal to piss in the woods. Did you know that? You might harm the environment. Of course, animals have been peeing in the woods for thousands of years, right? And interestingly enough, that's called fertilizer. Good for it. It's good for the soil. But it's illegal to do such things. It's fine to dump a bunch of chemicals in the river from a factory. Well, accidentally dumped a bunch, a few thousand tons of radioactive material in the river. We're going to fine them $50, It's all right. But if we find out that you've built a cabin in the woods, the Forest Service come along and actually remove that cabin. See, it's government land. It's supposed to be there for everybody to use. But you're not allowed to camp out for more than a few months in one place. Can't have everybody running around living all over the world. See, we got to get these people in the inner cities. So here's the deal. They're trying to make you believe that everything you do is polluting the world. You got plastic and you didn't recycle it, you're a bad person. Okay? If you pour motor oil on the ground, you can be arrested and serve jail time. Kind of weird, because did you know that thousands and millions of acres all over the world, the government on a regular basis runs around and pours oil all over the ground? Just all over the place. It's called roads. It's made out of tar and oil. And tar is made out of oil, and they actually pour oil all over the ground, and they mix it with rocks, and that's called asphalt. And so there are millions of acres that they cover in asphalt all over the world. And yet, they want us to believe that if we poured a quart of oil on the ground somewhere in the desert, that would harm the environment so severely that we should be arrested. Isn't that amazing? So overpopulation is their lie. They're saying that we're harming the earth, us little innocents. They're getting away scot-free, destroying our world. I remember about 20 years ago up in Idaho, they were doing this thing called clear cut. They would go into the mountains, and you'd look up there and you'd see all this mountain, just every tree. They'd cut them all. The whole it would turn bald. A beautiful forested mountain would turn bald in just a few weeks. In fact, my father did some of that. He was a logger for a while, and he would cut down the trees. Well, as a younger man then, I would look up in these mountains and see all these trees, and I would think, really? I mean, they're not logging the trees, they're just cutting them down because they say there's a fungus up there, and it's diseased, and so the trees are going to die if we don't cut all these other trees. It's going to spread. That's what they told us. Turns out, some years later, we found out they were lying to us. This was just a way to go in and rape the forest and take all the trees so we could make more houses and paper and pencils and whatever they make out of trees. This way, they didn't have to just cut a few trees here and a few trees there, or thin them out, or do anything, ecologically sound. But they could just go in and wipe out an entire forest under the pretense that there was a disease there. So this is how they lie to us and deceive us. One of the most amazing lies that they've been telling us is that there's overpopulation. There's 7 billion people in the world. But do you know that you could take everybody in the world, put them in the state of Washington in the United States, just one state, and Washington's a very small state. I mean, sometimes you think of it as a big state, but it's not very big. Just imagine everybody in the world in that one state. So why is it that they're saying there's an overpopulation? And it's because that, you see, they want the world to be pristine without any human beings, and they want to use it, to rape it, to pillage it, to go in and suck the oil out, to go in and cut down all the trees. But if there's people living there, they couldn't do that. See, that's what government land is. You thought that they just made all these BLM so that we would have the access to this land and the people would be able to use the land. It's not true. What they do on that BLM land is rape it. They don't manage it. They don't take care of the animals. Not too long ago, they started killing off all the wolves because there's too many wolves. So they started killing them. They do a few things as a pretense to make us believe that they're trying to, manage the environment, right? Oh, there's fish are dying. You can't go in there and you can't go fishing, or you can't do this, or you can't have any of the water. The farmers don't get any water. Why? Because the government wants those resources. Just like that rancher in Nevada, right? They came in there and tried to take his cows and make him move, right? Because they needed the land. So you see, there's no overpopulation. They keep everybody in the cities because of a lot of different reasons. But one, if you live in the cities, if you got 1 million or 10 million people in a little small spot, then you can't grow your own food. So that means you've got to buy the food from them. You can't clothe yourself, take care of yourself, feed yourself. Now you're subject to the government. Think about this. If everybody went out and got themselves a couple of acres and grew their own food and had their own cows and chickens and stuff, we wouldn't need the government. We wouldn't need Walmart. We wouldn't need anything. We wouldn't need McDonald's, right? We'd have our own little communities. And we'd have our own farms, and we'd be happy. Our children would be happy. They wouldn't be on drugs. They'd be living out in the natural setting, and they'd be riding horses and eating apples and fruit, and they'd be healthy, and they wouldn't go to the doctor. They wouldn't be on drugs because they'd have fun things to do, and they'd have other children to play with that were culturally stable, and life would be wonderful. We'd have a paradise. So this is why they keep us in the inner cities, so that we can't grow our own food and take care of ourselves, and we'll be dependent upon the government. Isn't that weird? That you believed now for all these years that there's overpopulation, we're going to destroy the earth, when in reality we were supposed to pee in the woods. We were supposed to cut down a tree and build a house, and as long as we do it because we take what we need and we use it correctly. But the government, however, they're reserving all this forest and all this land, not so that it will be there for our children, so they can rape it and pillage it for all of its resources. This fracking that's going on. You've seen the gas prices lately, right? They're like below $2 a gallon. How'd that happen? How do you produce oil for that cost? That was the cost of gasoline back in the, what, 70s? Something? 80s maybe? Well, the reason for that is because now they're using fracking. So they can produce a whole lot more oil for the same cost. They're making it real cheap. That's the only reason we haven't gone into a complete collapse financially in this world, because every year for the last few years they've been making things cheaper, getting stuff from China, free labor. The Mexicans have gotten a lot of cheap labor, and everything's just getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. I just went into Walmart the other day and bought 4 metal spoons for 88 cents, 4 plastic bowls for 88 cents. It would have been $3 or $4 when I was a kid for the same thing. I bought a cooler. You know, you put ice in it, and it's like this big cooler. $16. That thing would have been $30 when I was a kid. So everything's cheaper. And of course, the food's cheaper too, because they're mass producing it in Bolivia, or, you know, Argentina or somewhere, or China. In Japan, if you eat meat, it comes from America. So you see, they don't live in the country so they can have their own cattle and their own corn and their own garden. So they have to bring this food in, and therefore these big companies control what we eat, what we do, what we believe, what we think. It's easier to send electricity into a city and get you all hooked on the television. You're all plugged in and you're watching the propaganda. See, if you had some sheep, right, you wouldn't want them all running around. You can't get to them. So you gather them up and you put them in a little pen. And that's what these cities are. They're little pens. Talk about FEMA camps. Friends, don't you realize you're already in a FEMA camp? It's called New York City. It's called Tokyo, Mexico City, San Francisco. You all live in a FEMA camp, friends. And this here's David Vos, and I'm warning you. You need to get out of there now. And don't be sitting there saying, oh, well, you can't tell everybody to get out of the cities. There's no room. There's nowhere to go. Oh, my goodness, friends. There's hundreds of billions of acres in this world. Have you ever seen Canada? It's, I don't know how many times bigger than the United States. There's nobody there. Australia? There's nobody there. Russia? There's nobody there. Millions, most of the world is just completely void of human life. And you say, well, that's good, right? So we're not raping it and pillaging it. Oh, no, that's where they do the raping and the pillaging. Now they're going to Antarctica. Friends, get out of the cities and do it now. Because if you're going to live in that FEMA camp, you're going to be poisoned with the fluoride water. You're going to be controlled and abused. Get out. Get out of the city. Buy a small piece of land and live according with nature. And that's all I got to say, friends, today. You guys have a great day. So David Vos signing out.